Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for May 8th, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Kim and I started out at 6 a.m. at the Lakeview Church Trail, and there was quite the difference from the past few days. The past couple days there were tons of yellow-rumped warblers and palm warblers, and they seem to have moved out mostly, but tons of ruby-crowned kinglets around today and small numbers of other warblers. Here's a male purple finch perched up in the top of a tree singing. We had our first great crested flycatcher of the year. Here's a blue-headed vireo with those nice white spectacles. Afterwards, we briefly hit the Firehouse Woods and didn't have much there, and then went over to the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch around 8:30 because there was a little bit of wind, so I thought the raptors might be getting up a little bit early, which they did. Had some turkey vultures starting around 8:30 a.m. You can see it was a nice sunny day with a kind of high layer of clouds that was excellent for spotting raptors throughout the day. The winds were mostly out of the west-northwest, occasionally shifting more northerly or more westerly, but overall it was a good wind and the flight was either right over the platform or just slightly off to the side. So we had some really good looks today and just a fun day, really steady flight and some nice highlights that we can get into. Here's a couple of those early turkey vultures that started moving even before 9 a.m. It was nice to see a dark-eyed junco down on the path. They were getting a little few and far between now. This great blue heron gave us a nice look as it went by in front of the platform. And it even soared around to gain some altitude before moving on to the east. There was a lot of swallow activity today. Here we have a barn swallow. You can see they're blue on top, with sort of a red forehead and throat, mostly whitish underneath, and a long forked tail. Here's a white-crowned sparrow that was down on the path. And it was a big day for turkey vultures, so you know what that means. The local Cooper's hawk decided to have some fun and chase them off. This photo gives a nice comparison of their size. Obviously, the Cooper's hawk's less than half the size of the vulture. But that doesn't stop him from attacking it. There were a lot of bank swallows around again today, and bank swallows are a small swallow, have kind of a cute looking face, a white throat, and mostly white underside except for this brown breast band. Here's another look at the same bird, and it looks like the tail is messed up a little bit. And here's another bank swallow, and again, remember you're looking for that white throat and the single brown breast band. Here's another look at that local adult Cooper's hawk. You can see it's got a long tail that accipiters have, somewhat large head, holding the wings out straight. Looks like a flying cross. Here we have a tree swallow. Tree swallows are blue on top and completely white underneath from the throat all the way down, so no breast band or anything. Here's an adult broad-winged hawk. So broad-winged hawks are small buteos. You can see they have somewhat pointed wings when they're soaring because they only have 4 feathers that make up the wingtip. You can see the adults have a dark trailing edge to the wing as well as a tail that looks dark except for a wide white band. We had some chimney swifts flying together, which was cool to see. See if you can figure out what this raptor is. So we see pointed wings, so we suspect that it is a falcon. You can see that it's somewhat dark underneath with this dark vertical streaking, and it's got kind of a dark tail with thin white bands. So this is a merlin. Here we have another buteo. We see that this one has dark patagial bars and a belly band, and a dark trailing edge to the wing, and a red tail. So we know that this is an adult red-tailed hawk. So far, most of the broad-winged hawks we've been seeing have been adults, but today there were a noticeable number of juveniles. So here's one as an example. They're the same shape as the adult, but they don't have that dark trailing edge to the wing and that dark tail with the white band. So overall, just the juveniles look quite a bit paler than the adults. We had a good number of sharp-shinned hawks today, over 125. And you can see that the sharp-shins have a small head. They have that long accipiter tail, but it's more squared off. The tail feathers are about the same length, although it looks slightly rounded when they fan it out like this. And the wings are a little bit shorter and stockier, so they're not as lanky looking as Cooper's hawks. Here we have an immature bald eagle. You see a lot of that splotchy white here on the underside of the body and in the wing pits. So those are good field marks for immature bald eagle. You won't really see white in these areas on a golden eagle. Here's a small kettle of broad-winged hawks. Here's another adult red-tailed hawk showing the same field marks as before with the dark patagial bars and belly band. And the adults have the dark trailing edge to the wing and the red tail. And I'd say this one's a little bit more on the heavily marked side. Here's another look at a juvenile broad-winged hawk. And they're very variable underneath. You can see that this one's really pale underneath, almost no streaking at all except along the sides here. Here's a nice comparison shot between a turkey vulture on the left and an immature bald eagle on the right. Here we have another eagle, and if we take a look at it, looking at the overall shape, the wings look a little bit curvy. We see that they pinch in here near the body. So not so rectangular looking, a little bit more curvy. We see that it's very clean looking underneath. It has white patches in each wing, but it's just one white patch kind of in the center of the wings, and then a white base to the tail that again looks very clean. Looking at the head is small, and we see a golden colored nape. So all of those things combine to make this an immature golden eagle. Here's an osprey that flew by with a fish. We had an excellent look at this male wood duck. Here's a first of year species that gave us a pretty good look as it flew by. One thing to note is the overall color. It's very yellowish, a yellow rump, a little bit of orange to the head, and it's got some white patches here in the wings and some white in the tail as well. And taking a look at the underside, we see that it's yellow with some black streaking. And here it is with the wings folded, and we can see those white patches. So this is a male Cape May warbler. Here we have a comparison between two broad-winged hawks. And the top one is an adult. We can see that dark trailing edge and that dark tail with the wide white band on it. Compare that to the juvenile on the bottom, much paler looking. And we also see that it's beginning to molt some of the inner primary feathers. And that's pretty common of the juvenile broadwings that we see this time of year. They are replacing feathers, so you'll sometimes see gaps in the wings or the tail. Here we have a comparison between two northern harriers. So the one on the left is an adult male, sometimes called a gray ghost. You can see that overall whitish or silver color with black wingtips and black bars here in the secondary feathers. Compare that to the bird on the right, which is what we would call one of the brown types, so either a juvenile or an adult female. This one looks like it doesn't have much streaking and not much marking in the patagial area, so I would bet that this is probably a juvenile. Here we have a bird that has pointed wings and a bit of a helmeted appearance to the head, kind of a wide tail. And this is a large falcon, so it is a peregrine falcon. Here we have a couple of turkey vultures gliding in towards us as they migrate. Here we have a juvenile bald eagle, and this one looks pretty fresh. You can see it's still really dark on the underside of the body and dark head, and just an even trailing edge to the wing because all of the feathers are the same age. A little bit of a gap here. That might just be some feather out of place or a little bit of damage or something, but this looks like a fresh juvenile bald eagle, possibly one born down in the southern U.S. over the winter. Here we have the local adult Cooper's hawk tucked into a stoop. It turned as it was diving. Here we see the top side of the bird. And it even gave us a side profile. And we'll end with one last look at a juvenile broad-winged hawk. And you can see that this one has a lot more marking underneath than that one we saw earlier that had hardly anything. So again, they can be pretty variable. And this also gives us a look at that tail where there is some amount of black and white banding to it. Taking a look at the eBird checklist from today, at the Lakeview Community Church Trail, we had 56 species. At Firehouse Woods, only 28 species, just a quick run through there. And at Braddock Bay Park, today we had 67 species. Taking a look at the hawk count report for our migrant raptor totals, today we had 520 turkey vultures, 7 osprey, 20 bald eagles, 12 northern harriers, 126 sharp-shinned hawks, 5 Cooper's hawks. For Buteos, we had 538 broad-winged hawks and 25 red-tailed hawks. we had 2 immature golden eagles. And for falcons, we had 1 kestrel, 2 merlins, and 2 peregrines, for a total of 1,260 migrant raptors today. That brings the May total to 6,013 and the season total to 42,838. New species for the season today were least flycatcher, great crested flycatcher, ruby-throated hummingbird, and Cape May warbler. And taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, it's looking cloudy early, then becoming mostly sunny, with a high in the low 60s. Winds north-northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So those are somewhat unfavorable winds as they push the migrants away from the lakeshore and push them farther inland. And I think that's just a true northeasterly wind rather than a lake breeze. Sometimes we have a warm wind that's bringing the migrants up to the lakeshore, and then that lake breeze kicks in, and there's sort of a balance point that they find. But looking at the winds for tomorrow, it looks like they'll be northeast all the way down south of us. So no southerly winds to bring the migrants up. Would only expect light, maybe moderate migration. For Wednesday, it's looking generally sunny with a high around 70 and winds west-northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So that's kind of similar to what we had today. So I would expect moderate migration. For Thursday, looking mainly sunny with a high in the low 70s, winds west at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And with those light winds, there's a chance that the lake breeze could kick in. So we'll keep an eye on that, but would expect moderate migration. And the songbird migration for tonight is looking light to moderate. And then the next few nights, again, light to moderate, and then maybe moderate the next night. So over the next few days, we should continue to get some new species and some new warblers. So it's a great time of year to get out birding early in the morning. And as you saw today, we can still have really, really good hawk flights this time of year. Really enjoyable day out on the platform with a lot of good friends and visitors. So I hope you can come out and join us soon at the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. From Lake Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.